This podcast is called The Story.
Yeah.
What is the story?
The story of our club is that when you genuinely love people, they will love you back.
And so many of them, they focus on, I've been loved so much. People have supported me so much. Now I want to support people.
Hi, welcome back to The Story, TGIF and Born Shine Christian Toastmasters. My name is Paul.
And I'm Joe.
And this episode of The Story is called...
It's called The Wrap.
Why is it called The Wrap, Joe?
Well, I prefer burritos. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's called
Or
The
tacos.
Wrap. Or tacos. No, it's called The Wrap because this is the kind of end of the story. The story that...
The story, I hope not.
The show that we've put together, we had
Yes.
a finite goal.
Yeah, we did.
And when I proposed this to you at
Yes.
Ikari
Ikari Coffee, yeah.
coffee shop near our venue, we were like,
Correct.
I wanted to start a show about TGIF and Born Shine's
Yes, because TGIF had just celebrated their 10-year anniversary.
And so I didn't have to even beg you. I just proposed the idea and you're like, let's do it, baby.
Yeah, why not? Well, the reason why is we've been talking about doing a podcast for the last 27 years.
Forever. 27. But it
Feels like that.
but the timing felt really right.
Yeah, it did. And I think the goal of the show, this podcast, was to highlight the history of TGIF and then, of course, Born and Shine, the first 10 years, that people could go back and look at the traditions that we've established, the reason why. So, if we're not around anymore, if people want to have some idea of how it's all started, they can go back and have a look on YouTube.
It's
or
true.
on Spotify, they can listen.
Or Spotify or wherever you get your podcast.
Exactly.
And it's interesting because when you have a vision for a project and you get to the end of the project,
Yeah,
they can look very different.
they can.
And so we're going to get into this episode. Paul has questions. I have questions. And
So how are we doing this? Like, you asking me questions, I'm asking you questions one, or you just going to ask me a bunch, then I'm going to ask you a bunch? Just go back and forth.
I think maybe we'll divide this into two sections.
Oh, okay. all
I'll
right.
go first.
Okay.
I've got some questions
Okay.
here. And
I got some questions here.
the card's the prop at this point.
The cards are prop, the story.
It's a good prop though. And
For those on Spotify, we're holding cards that say the story. And usually on the other side, there's questions, but we usually point this just for some branding.
yeah, branding, right?
Yeah.
There's a logo.
For our 357 followers on YouTube.
By the time this episode releases, who knows? Maybe that number's gotten bigger.
Maybe it's 365.
Oh, but yeah, so I will take the first half. I've got some questions.
Good.
And
All right. I look forward to your questions.
second half, it's all you.
All right. Well, let's jump into it, John.
My first question to you.
Yes.
All right, we started planning out these episodes for the
Yeah.
story. I think we started with 10, and then it became 11. Now we're up to I don't even know how many,
13, I think.
13. And I want to ask you, in the process, what was an episode or an interviewee that you were really looking forward to talking to, or an episode you were really looking forward to recording? What would that have been for you?
All of them.
No, sir. I will not accept cheater answers.
No. Hey, that's not a cheater answer. That's what everybody says to me. Like, on Friday night, I was the TME.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
And I said to me, what's your favorite video on YouTube? And then the ones who were cheating said all of them. But seriously, the one episode that I was really looking forward to was the faith.
Yes.
I was looking forward to every single interviewee, but I was specifically looking forward to that because I know that Quan and Sally, I know a little bit of their stories about coming to Christ and coming to faith in Christ. I was very curious to see and to hear how their faith informs their participation in Toastmasters. And I think they answered those questions beautifully. And I was really looking forward to seeing that. We are Christian-oriented Toastmasters clubs. And I was really looking forward to that. And the other one was KC, of course. KC from Hong Kong. He came all the way from Hong Kong.
That's true.
Yeah.
And that was quite special to be able to get him to come out. And he was like, oh, I'm going to come to the conference because of you guys.
Exactly. Yeah, that was great.
That was amazing.
I mean, because he wasn't planning to come originally.
No. And I sent him an SOS on Facebook, like, can
Yes.
we get you?
Exactly.
Those were two really big ones. And actually, I remember when we released The Faith, Carolyn was like, that is my favorite episode.
And Carolyn, who was featured on the conference episode, correct?
Yes. It was a really beautiful episode. Everything we've done, I've enjoyed.
Yeah, no, me too. I mean, I think they've all been great. Yeah.
But The Faith felt different.
It did. It was very different. It was very special because it wasn't really Toastmastery, right? It was more like personal stories.
That's true. It was one that kind of stepped away from our typical format that's very Toastmasters oriented.
Indeed, yeah.
Really nice. And I think, okay, for me, for someone who was really looking forward to interviewing,
Your wife.
was my wife to see what that was going to be like.
And B me. No.
Oh, for the president.
The president.
That was a surprise.
Yeah, the president's was a surprise, yeah.
That's actually kind of the funny thing because when the new presidents, like the new officers, that was on the list for a while.
It was. And then I got to be the new
You got to be president. And I hadn't been expecting that, so
Nor was I.
it was the only episode we recorded as a solo host because
Yeah,
you were the guest
I
that
know.
day.
Yeah, you're pretty good at that, though, you know.
That was hilarious.
That was really funny, yeah.
I really love that. And then having Eric back on, it was like, wait a minute, this wasn't
Yeah.
in the plan at all.
Yeah.
But that was also a really good episode.
It was.
And it's also a nice reminder of how the plans can change a lot.
Indeed.
But someone I was really looking forward to interviewing was Wang Mingxuan.
Oh, Wang Mingxuan, she was great. 但是she don't win, very difficult. It was all Chinese. That like blew my brains out. Yeah.
But that was also really cool. Also, yes, the 2 Chinese episodes we did. Like, okay, 等一下，中文的模式很难，但是你做得非常棒。
You know, in the beginning when we started this, we said that we were going to only have a monolingual episode.
Oh, and here I am. I'm breaking the rule. Breaking the rule. But anyway, that was also really good.
But the Chinese episodes were great. Yeah, we really enjoyed that. Yeah, I enjoyed those too.
It was also an episode where we really just took the back seat.
Stretched my brain. After that, my brain felt like putty and elastic all at once.
Yes, that was quite the challenge. So what I have for you now is a bit more of a technical question.
Sure.
I only deal with the audio.
Yeah, lucky.
Praise the Lord. I sit back, I use Audacity, and I make some changes. I cut some things, especially the Chinese episodes where I'm like, oh, I said that wrong, and just cut.
So wait. For the Chinese episodes, you only cut where you say things wrong, but when I say things wrong, you keep it in. I'm really going to go listen now. I want to see if you like throwing me under the bus.
Never. I would never. But I want to ask, can you walk me through some of the changes that you've made on the technical side, like processes, because first episode to now, they visually look so different.
Yeah, so the first episode, we were finding our feed. I sent to Darren Lacroix that we spoke about in the conference episode, and he suggested that the first episode, we just had one camera angle, that was it. And he said that problem was like the poppers were right in front of our faces and he couldn't see our expressions and, he could hear the voice and he liked the idea. His advice was to become an expert on podcasting. And so I looked at a couple of podcasts and I realized, we need to go from one camera to multi-cameras. We've had problems in this room with the lighting, trying to figure out the lighting. Every time we come, the lighting is just different.
It's always something different.
Yeah. And then I think the big challenge for me, so even when we're still using one camera, then I started cutting the shots in Movavi, which is the video editor I use.
And you're like using zoom cuts, right?
Yeah. But then we decided to try multiple cameras, and that's when the complexity came, because every single time we do it, I have to sync the audio with three different videos now, not just one video. And then because of the nature of the camera that we use, the Canon G7X Mark II, that can only record for 30 minutes. So then we have 2 takes for every episode. And so you actually have to sync like 6 videos together. And then sometimes we do the clap, but the peaks line up, but then you can hear there's an echo, and then you got to like really use your ear, and it just becomes a nightmare. And there was one no matter what I did, it was just like the one about the faith, and I'll say it's the one the devil didn't want, is because it took me 17 hours to get it done. Like, it was just insane. 17 hours to get it done, and it was just insane. I don't know, like, I just couldn't sync it. And no matter what I did, every time, like, even if I rendered the video, like, even when it was inside Movavi itself, it would sound fine. Render the video, all of a sudden, like, listen, it was just like, boom, out of sync. It was a nightmare.
Just a face palm.
And I don't think it's really that long. I just think I have a slow computer, so it renders video slowly. I need a faster processor maybe, but, it did take time, and that was a big challenge. But when I look at the finished products, I'm really happy with it. And so I'm okay with it.
I remember the faith episode. You know, it would be 2 a.m.
Yeah.
And I remember you sent me one message where you're like, cry in the dojo, laugh in the battlefield, which of course comes from my father.
Yeah.
But then I got a message from you later. You're like, I'm still crying.
Actually, I probably am still crying inside now, thinking about all the effort I put into that. But it was worth it, you know. And I think in some ways, you know, like as a Christian club and as a Christian myself, if you look at my Facebook page, I think it's Coram Deo, which comes from John Calvin, who says that we're in the theater of God. And the reformers in the Christian faith, they believe that everything Christians do should be to the glory of God. And I think, you know, I'm not an expert in video editing. I don't pretend to be. We're just learning. We start this process as learning.
Yeah.
But I want to give the very best I can. You know, so when people look at this, maybe it's not top quality. Maybe if you're a professional video editor, I'm sure you can do a much better job, much quicker than I can. But in my heart, I've done the best I can. And when I look back on this in the years to come, I'll say, you know what, I did the best I could. And it was to the glory of God. And it was just to like encourage our members, really. And if people watch it, if they don't, at the end of the day, I must be proud of what I've done. And so, yeah, maybe I'm still crying from all the effort. But when I look back at it, but honestly, when I look back at every episode, I think, you know what, it was worth it.
Man, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's true. Like the technical side, when we started this, our goal was make one change.
Yeah, every episode.
One improvement every episode.
Yeah.
And now it's kind of at the point where, like, to make the improvement would take a lot of work because we've already made some of the basic improvements. But I agree with you. There's something about, okay, when we're making the episode, you and I are having lots of back and forth on Facebook Messenger, like, but then it gets released and you add it to that playlist.
Yeah.
Or I add it to my playlist for Spotify.
Yeah.
And when that number goes up, it just feels really good. I don't know what number it hit for you that you thought, oh, wow, we've got an actual podcast series.
I think for me right now, like before, but I've always said to you, it's not about the numbers, it's about just doing the quality work, right? You know, we set out to do this. The purpose of setting out to do this was to do something good. Like, you know, not to criticize people, but we've seen people do that podcast project. And, you know, they'll sit at home using a bad mic, throw together 120 minutes of podcasting.
Or even just 60 minutes for one person.
Minutes,
right?
Yeah, for 60 minutes of podcasting, low quality, nobody listens to it. But we want to do something that was worthwhile doing. You know, I don't believe in doing anything unless you make it worthwhile.
Yes,
you know,
that is very Paul.
Like, I don't really think, you know, I'm going to do a podcast, but I'm not really, my goal is not really to get people to listen to it. It's not really to learn anything. It's just to check a box. No. The goal of Pathways, and people criticize Pathways a lot. I know I have in the past, but if there's a project, like old system, new system, if there's a project, the project is there for a reason to teach you a lesson.
Yeah.
And it's not to check a box. You don't get a DTM, you know, too many people get their DTM just checking boxes. Like I often say, you know, you see so many DTMs walking around, and I say this unapologetically, you know, if you're a DTM and this is you, sorry, but I say this unapologetically, there's so many DTMs, distinguished Toastmasters, really, like I feel a lot of DTMs have just, it's just basically like, oh, thank you for the time contributed. It's not really thank you for the excellence you've delivered. And one of the core tenets of Toastmasters is excellence. You know, integrity, respect, service, excellence. That's the order. But excellence is there. It might be the last of the core values, but it's one of the core values. Don't just do something to check a box. If you're going to do something in Toastmasters, do it to the best of your ability. You know, recently I did a speech about my podcast, about my YouTube channel.
Right.
For the very first time, I was screencasting, and it was an absolute disaster, but I really did try my best. But I learned from my mistake. The next time I do it, I'm going to do it better. Don't do it to check boxes. Do it to do it properly, and that's what we set out to do with this project. As I said, I'm sure there are video editors out there that can do it much better than me, much quicker than me, more professionally than me. But given the materials we have, given the tools we have, and given the time I've spent doing it, I feel I've done the very best I can for this podcast.
One of the big things for me is, so when I invited you to start this with me, we were like, okay, Pathways, it tells us we need to do 60 minutes.
Yeah.
You can divide it across multiple episodes.
Sure.
I said, well, there are two of us, let's do 120.
Yes.
And all I can think is, if we had stopped at 120, what lessons we would have missed.
Yes.
And if we
Indeed.
had stopped just fulfilled the basic requirement,
sure.
I feel like we would have missed out on a lot.
Sure. And so, yeah, to people doing this project, do it properly.
Yeah, it's a big challenge. And I think these level 4 projects, like building a social media presence, the podcast project, it demands a lot. But honestly, if you want to grow, I think you have to push.
It's like on the old system, the HPL. The HPL, some people, like, I'd ask them, what do you do for HPL? Oh, I did something like organize like an outing. And that's HPL. It's like, but what kind of outing? You can use these opportunities to actually benefit yourself, like actually grow, actually learn something good, or you can just check a box.
Right. And Paul Sharpe is not known for checking boxes.
No.
I'll never forget when we planned an end of term dinner when we were both presidents.
150 people.
150 people, Paul.
We got it. We achieved it.
That was crazy. Now, okay, I'm going to move away from the technical because I don't want to cause both of us to cry technical tears.
I'm laughing. Yeah, this is the battlefield, baby.
Battlefield. But I do want to say thank you so much for all
thank
of
you.
your effort.
Thank you for getting me involved.
Yeah, and
I've learned a lot.
Seeing it grow, and I send it to people, and people who have seen episode 1 up until now, they're like, wow, it's really come a long way.
Sure.
Now, the story. The story is something, can have many chapters.
Sure.
If you had an opportunity to add a chapter, what would you add?
If I had the opportunity to add another chapter to the story
as it is right now.
As it is right now. I think what I would add, if I was going to add another chapter to the story, there I am, like, I'm using some time in Taiwan.
You're doing great. You're doing great.
No, seriously, I would actually just like to focus on something like team building.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
I
Okay.
really like to focus on team building, like how to build teams in Toastmasters. I think that one of the biggest lacks we have in Toastmasters is that teams come in all enthusiastically, but a solid team is a solid team that works together forever.
Ooh, I like that, yeah.
And so, like, you and I, we've been in Toastmasters for a long time. We continue to collaborate. We continue to work together. Iris and myself, we continue to collaborate, continue to work together. There's many people, even though I haven't had an official role as in leadership, like I look at Jenny Leo in our club, like the way she built the teams in Born to Shine and continues to participate. Like,
she's a huge presence in that club.
She is. Like Iris Joe continue to participate in the teams. And I think that's the teams and the collaboration within the clubs and what keeps it going. And, like they are the axis around which our clubs often exist. And what we noticed, and I said this to you, like when Iris Cho took some leave from Toastmasters leadership, the clubs kind of struggled.
Yeah, you could feel the lack of her presence.
And so, like, really, like, collaboration, how do we build long-term collaboration? Because good clubs, great clubs, are going to exist because the leadership teams continue to be involved, even though they're not the leaders anymore. And so what I mean is, like, you're president now, but I was the third president on TGIF, now I'm going to be the 12th president. So, like, there's been 9 presidents between me and the last time. I wish I didn't have to be president again, but I have to. But how do you keep those leaders involved so the club continues to be supported by them, build those foundations? And I think that's very important. Long-term team building.
Yeah, that's true. There's something about having the team, having people continue to be involved. And you're absolutely right. Like people like Iris and Jenny who continue to support even after they're done with the official role. It means a lot. It's big. Yeah, absolutely. That would have been a good chapter. The leadership, the team, the teamwork.
Team building.
Yeah.
Team building. Just team building, yeah.
Team building.
Just how to build teams in Toastmasters. Because I think that works across life itself, right? Because it's a very practical skill that and something very practical to discuss because we all work in offices, we all work with people, we all have to build teams. And I know the officer team, we say officer team, but sometimes those office teams are so fractured.
Right, there's division, yeah.
Yeah, and so it's like, or sometimes, because of volunteer organization, like how do you keep people involved inside?
Yes, oh my
because
gosh.
They'll come in all gung-ho the first 3 months, yeah. And then like the 4th month, like you don't see half your officer team sometimes. I'm not saying that's every club, some clubs. So team building, how do you instill that commitment, that level of like willingness to just like work hard for each other?
Yeah, I feel like a big question that would have maybe been dealt with would have been how do you build a team so that it's stronger at the end than it was at the beginning?
That's a fantastic question, yeah.
Oh, this is
How would
good.
you answer it?
Oh my gosh. No, okay, first of all, so by the time this gets released, you're an official TGIF president. And I want to say that what I've been seeing from you are some of the steps that you would take to do that. And one of that is to build clear expectations and setting where the goal needs to be. One of the difficult things I think that comes when you join a volunteer organization, especially if you're new and you become an officer, is you don't understand where the goalposts are and you don't understand how to run that race.
Sure.
Right? You don't know, am I running a 5K or am I running a 10K? Sure. They don't know.
Sure.
And so what happens is you run what is a 10K like it's a 5K.
Exactly.
So you're running too fast and you get halfway not knowing that you have 5K left to run.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And what I think you've done that I really appreciate is you've shown all of us at the end of the term, this is where you need to be. This is what we need to do. And that goalpost, I think, is very important. And officer teams need goalposts to know where to run.
And what I found, and I'm not naming names yet, but what I found is there were some people in our club, before I stepped in and started like setting out goals, they were like kind of like very nonchalant, very, unmotivated in the, and, when I'd send them messages before I was the nominated president, their general responses were very much like, well, maybe I'll be involved, maybe I won't.
Maybe, I don't know.
But then, when I started sending messages like about expectations, about goals, about this, all of a sudden they saw that there's a plan. All of a sudden they saw that there's a plan of growth, there's a plan to move forward. And these same people have responded far more positively since then. And that's been a real blessing to see that. But I think the other thing for me to building a team is like to maintain the integrity of your values. So for example, I'm sorry, I'm going to admit it, integrity is everything in Toastmasters. We don't have a VP as of now. So as of recording, I don't have a VP for TGI. If there's nobody in the club that I feel is capable of doing the role, or there's nobody willing to do the role who is capable, I'm being honest about that. But I'm not going to say, okay, well, just for the sake of a VP, I'm going to nominate somebody.
Right, just put a name down.
No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to say I don't have a VP, and I'm going to do it. It's not because I want the power. Honestly, like I don't want to have a double role. It's too much, but I will do it because I think that having that idea and giving people the sense that to serve is a privilege.
Yes, absolutely.
It's an absolute privilege to serve people. Like we always talk about the servant leadership in Toastmasters, but then people think, well, service is a burden. No, but it's servant leadership.
Yes. And when we talk about servant leadership, I go back to the episode that we released with Iris and Alex.
Sure.
Where so much of what they talk about, both of them, is about
just amazing.
Loving their club.
Yeah, absolutely loved.
And that service stems from love.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, okay, I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
And I know that this is now straying from the topic. So I'll stray just a little bit and then I'll move right back.
That's fine.
Okay, you don't have a VPE.
No.
What do you do to build the next VPE up so that the next president has a VPE? I know this is like a really hard question. I'm just kind of throwing at you. Like, how do you fix that kind of problem?
The way you fix that problem is by showing people that actually, as a VP, so many people come into the role. Like, let me give you the answer in a kind of roundabout way.
Yeah, go for it.
When I first joined Toastmasters, every single Toastmasters club I went to, table topics, they'd always introduce table topics, and it was the cliche. It was the absolute cliche. Man. Oh, this is the please don't call me session.
Yes.
And I was like, why? And so then I turned that around in TGIF and Born and I said, no, we're going to reframe this as the please call me session. I don't get it. Why do people join Toastmasters and they don't want to be called for for table topics?
Yeah.
Like, that's why you're there.
Yeah.
You're paying your money. You're paying your money to do this. And then they don't want to be called. Like, why aren't you willing to to challenge yourself? And in the same way, it's like to get to reframe the thinking that actually VPE is not a burden. It's a blessing.
Ooh, okay.
Because so many people come in, and the framework and the messaging from Toastmasters and district and everybody else is that VP is such a burden, it's such a busy job. I was VP before as well. I was the second or third VP. I think I was the second VP of TGIF. And that's where I established the connections I established in Toastmasters because I genuinely cared about the people. If you're VP, you know what you get to do. Everybody comes into Toastmasters. We've recently had a member who's come in and come out, and she just wants to help people. But you know how much you help people as VPE?
Huge.
You're like, if you are a committed, dedicated VPE, you tell me you want to help people, be a VPE. If you tell me you want to love people, be a VPE. Because it's that role that you can help people genuinely grow towards their goals as a leader and as a speaker. Because as the VPE, you define the agenda. You ask people, what is your goal? How can I help you grow? Where do you need growth? Who do you need as your mentor? What do you need to do to achieve that? And then at the end of the year, the magic.
Oh my gosh, you're selling it.
And so to reframe this as it's not a burden, it's a blessing. It's a blessing because if you genuinely love people and you genuinely want to see people grow, you would put your hand up first to be VPE, not president, not any other position. You say, I want to help people. I love people. I want to be the VP. You know why? Because that's the best way I can help people grow.
Man.
It's not a burden. It's a blessing.
I
and
love
that's
your
what we're
response.
reframing it as. Yeah.
Yes. This really rings true with me because when I was looking at online discourse surrounding VP, everyone's like, it's the hardest job. It is the most demanding. It's a burden. And there are challenges, but I think when you frame it and you see the rewards,
Absolutely.
it's a totally different game.
Absolutely. Like we've had some young members on this show. Like I look at Albert Gien, Emily Kerr, Alice Kerr, Tina Scher, Jenny Leo. You look at all these young people and we got to witness. And I'm not saying it's us. We didn't do it. They did it. They did the work. But you look at like Jenny Leo, who's been the perennial VPE because when people come and quit, like you look at just how amazing she is.
Yes.
Like she outshines me.
She's powerful.
And she never complains.
Yes.
She never complains. You ask Jenny Leo to do something, Jenny Leo says, I'm going to do it. It's done. Boom.
Huge.
Remember, Mei Zhang was the VP. She's incredible.
Yep.
Irish Joe, incredible people. And they served through loving people. And I'm just naming a couple, but there's so many in our club. But when you reframe it, but right now, what's happened is people are seeing it as a burden, not a blessing. And I need to reframe that. And that's how I'm going to do it for the next term.
Man. Well, I'm glad we stepped away and made that stop there. All right. I'm going to ask you just one more question, and then the handoff's going to begin.
Really?
Yes. Because
so quick.
We're at like 27 minutes recording.
Oh, my holy smokes.
Yeah, it's going quickly.
All right.
All right. This story, this podcast is called The Story.
Yeah.
What is the story? Like, if you had to define the story that we're telling.
The story of the story podcast or the story of TGIF and Born?
This is a very open question.
The story of our club is that when you genuinely love people, they will love you back. So many people want to be loved. So many people want significance. So many people want all this stuff.
Yeah.
But I'll never forget when I started back to church, one of the most influential people in my life is a guy called Pastor Dave Brown. And he said, if you want love, love.
Dang.
If you want friends, be a friend. Whatever you want in life, give that first, and then you'll get it back.
Beautiful.
And, you know, like Queenie and I, we loved as much as we could without any expectation. We didn't, you know, we've never given or we've never loved or we've never helped people with expecting anything in return. I think you know that. But when Queenie got sick, and I didn't want to ask for help.
Right.
But the people came.
Yeah.
The people came. And when I asked them why, they said because Queenie had given so much to them. And me in a little way too, you know, and they said, because you gave so much to us, we want to give back. And when Queenie was sick, like I could not have done it without TGIF and Born.
Beautiful.
And not just them, but the broader District 67 community. And so I think the story is, if you want a great club, it starts by building on love, always building on love. Genuine servant leadership, genuine love.
Wow. I absolutely love that response. I've been thinking about how you were going to answer this question since I wrote it last night. All right. We're going to pause here.
It stopped already.
It's our one camera has already stopped. Luckily, we have two other cameras. So we're going to stop here and
have a break.
Have a break, and then the handoff will begin. I want to tell you all about how TGIF and Born to Shine, our YouTube channel, which has loads of wonderful videos, but there's something specific. We have a playlist that's focused on workshops. Lots of great content for you to learn from some of our members, and we encourage you to check those out. At the end of November, November 29th, Lester Lin, a legendary evaluator, is going to be giving a workshop on evaluations. This is going to be an amazing event. If you're in Taipei, come. If you're in Kaohsiung, come. If you're in Japan, come. We recommend everyone come and check this out at TGIF and Born to Shine. I hope to see you there.
We're back with the story, and now that the tables have turned.
I am terrified.
Yeah. I spent a long time not writing questions.
I'm going to put my card just down now.
Your card, I just put my card there. Yeah, I actually don't need it. Joe, you are the one who conceived of this idea of this story.
Yes.
Did it live up to your expectations, and in what way? It did or didn't live up to your expectations?
I could never say that it didn't live up to my expectations. One of the big things for me is that the podcast far outran anything I imagined that we would do.
In what way?
Okay, in a couple of ways.
Yeah.
When we first came up with the idea, I had no idea where we were going to record. And Jenny Zhang said, because of the pandemic, there are lots of podcast studios now.
Yeah.
And then I thought, okay, so you and I, we sat down, we're like trying to look for a spot. Where are we going to do this? We looked at all sorts of spots. You're like, can't we do it like Joe Rogan? And I was like, we don't have Joe Rogan money.
But we got Joe Calpin.
Yeah, we got Joe Calpin. And then we found this venue. And MicMind has been great.
MicMind have been famous, except they don't want to put me on the...
They said 10,000 followers.
I got 357 as a recording.
That's right. Now, and then we did the first room. First room was fine.
Yeah.
And then we upgraded to this room. And we didn't even intend on it.
No.
We had one night, the first time we had 4 people, second episode. We walked in, we were like, ooh, this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
Because we only had one camera.
Yeah.
And so we did this room.
Yeah.
And that was a big game shift to me because all of a sudden we have a couch, we have chairs, it looks nice.
And got a picture of London on the back there.
And a picture of London. You can't see the cameras, but it's there. Just know. And so that from a technical, from just like the surface, how it looks, way beyond what I imagined. I imagined just an audio podcast, and Paul said, listen, we have to get up and show this for like 10 minutes in front of the club.
Yeah.
They need something to look at. And so
you don't want to do a listening. It's too boring.
Now, the other way that it's gone past what I expected was when I started thinking about the story, I had imagined it as this very like This American Life, NPR kind of more.
I've never listened to that.
So the way they work
Yeah.
is you have one person who's kind of narrating, and then they cut in with clips of people they've interviewed, where they'll say like, "Oh, we talk." So
that'd be so complicated.
it's so much more complicated. I don't even know what I was thinking. And then you told me, well, let's just do some more open interviews around topics.
Yeah.
That was a big game changer. And then as we've gone, the show has continued to go beyond my expectations.
Sure.
In that the conversations are always so much more than I expect.
I know they are. Yeah.
You and I, we sit at O Time or Micro Cafe Coffee.
Yeah, down there, Linson North Road.
Yeah, Linsun over there. And we start to conceive of our questions.
Yes.
And I'm usually typing them on my phone as Paul's throwing things out.
Yeah.
Oh, we had one over at Shiman at a fruit stand.
Yes,
Or a fruit juice place.
Yeah.
And we're throwing out questions. And when I come up with these questions, I'm like, it might be an interesting answer.
And I always have tabletop questions thrown.
And you always throw something in. But people's answers far exceed what I expect them. And the conversations we generate are really beautiful. Like, okay, we did the Zhongwen Yanjiang, to kind of go back to that one.
Oh, I took a very difficult for me to do the Chinese one, yeah.
But what was crazy about that was we conceived of it as let's interview people, why do they join a bilingual club, but then do Chinese speeches. But that episode ended up being, what is our club culture like, and talking about it in Chinese.
Yes, and it was amazing.
That was amazing. Had not expected that.
Yeah.
in the slightest.
Exactly, yeah.
And so every time we've done something, it's always been more than I expected and really beautiful. And there have been times when I'm like editing the audio that I feel really moved and want to make some bigger changes in my life about how I lead, how I look at things. And I was there for the conversation. I asked the questions.
Yeah.
But somehow in the recording, the post-editing for the audio, it hits me different. I don't know. I can't even explain it.
Well, I mean, you talk about the audio and the editing and all that, and you're the one who came up with the idea of the cards, the logo.
Yeah, the logo.
The Audacity, using Audacity. You're the one who found the room. I feel I just provide the cameras and then do the
15 hours of
the video editing. But you've certainly done a lot more on the technical side than me in terms of like logos and stuff, graphics.
Oh, the thumbnails.
The thumbnails. What do you think you learned the most from this process?
On the technical
what was the biggest?
side.
Yeah, on the technical side. What was it like? Because I think the podcast teach you something technical, right? So for me, it's definitely the video editing. How about yourself?
There have been a couple of things.
Yeah.
And okay, so one is the thumbnail editing. And I know
You did great about that.
I know they're not like fantastic.
Oh, I think
but
they're great.
Learning like, you can cut this layer, blur the back so it pops a little bit more.
Wow. Yeah.
Fonts, all of that. Just little changes. So each time I've made a thumbnail, I've tried to change one thing.
Yeah.
And then making the logo was fun because I remember I sent you like 4 of these.
No, but this is a great logo you got, yeah.
And that was fun, incorporating the different club logos and then the story there.
That's great, yeah.
And I tried to give it that Paul energy.
It's got a lot of energy.
It's got a lot of energy
Yeah,
going
it's
on
got a lot of
there.
energy going. Yeah. I like it. I like this logo. It's a good logo.
The audio side, one of the biggest, and it hit me the most with the faith, was I started using music for the teasers.
Oh, yeah.
And it's because when I picked Sally's Sharing.
Oh, that's so beautiful. That's beautiful, Sally's.
That's my favorite teaser.
Yeah,
it's Carolyn's favorite too. I love it. Yeah. But I was listening to it. I was like, I think I have a song that could go really well in the background. And that's when I started to kind of fiddle more. So on the YouTube version, listen, I got to give the 20 Spotify subscribers, I love you all. And one of you is Albert Yen. So I got to give you something a little special. And so I've been doing like music transitions for the ads, the
fantastic.
opening,
Yeah,
closing.
that's great.
And learning how to do that in a natural way has been really fun for me.
Yeah.
I sit and fiddle with it a little too much. Like Carolyn's like, Joe, it's 2 a.m. Paul's already told me go to bed like 2 times, but I love that learning process and just learning how to create a vibe with a bit of music in the background.
So what's the greatest personal lesson you've learned? So that's the technical lesson, but like the personal growth lesson you've learned from all the from the different interviewees that we've had. What's the biggest personal growth lesson you've learned from doing this?
Man, I wish I could throw out Carolyn's. I don't like superlatives. I won't though. I won't.
All right. Not biggest lesson. What is one significant lesson you've learned from the interviewees that we've interviewed?
Wow. Okay, I'm going through my mind and thinking of some of the biggest. And oh geez, this is really hard. Obviously, speaking to Casey was really fascinating and starting to see like how what we do matters in like a greater perspective than the club meetings. And then that Casey, talking to Casey was a big one, but also actually to go back all the way to the foundation and talking with Lester. So a bit of context is like, I actually didn't really know like Lester's Toastmasters story.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
And what hit me was like, I didn't appreciate how long of a journey it was to actually establish TGIF.
Sure.
And how it started with like a little vision and then pushing toward that. I just see the finished product. And it was a nice reminder to me that some of the greatest things it's just a long road. It's a really long journey. And Lester at any point could have been like, it's okay, it's not worth the effort.
Yeah.
But he pushed, and look how many lives he's changed.
Yeah, they've changed a lot of lives, yeah.
And the fact that like he's managed to build something that's gone beyond him. And that's not something all of us get to do.
Yeah.
But it's you have a vision and you hold on to that vision and you take action with it.
Sure.
And so also I think that idea of like vision to action is something that really hits me with areas of my life where like I have this idea, but I don't do anything with it. I mean, that's been the podcast for like, what did you say, 26 years?
I think I said 27.
27
but it could
years?
feel like 65 years at this point.
And so, taking it all the way back to the foundation. And then also a really big personal lesson that's come from many interviewees is we ask them that like question number 8, growth. And so many of them, they focus on, I've been loved so much. People have supported me so much. Now I want to support people.
And you do that fantastically, Joe.
But
you do it fantastically.
It's really inspiring.
You're one of the most supportive people in our club.
Oh,
by far,
my goodness.
By far.
And
I can superlative you on that.
Oh, wow. But yeah, it's
I'd say one of the most because we have a couple.
The other okay, this isn't like a big life-changing element, but keeping in mind that I lost 2 years of TGIF and Born to Shine
no.
being in Japan. Now, granted, I would have lost 9 months because of my own choice.
Sure.
Because I wanted to go to Japan.
But you lost 2 years, yeah.
But losing 2 years was hard.
Yeah.
And what was really nice was through many of the stories, getting stories that happened when I wasn't there.
That's fantastic.
And getting caught up on everything. And I felt like I was able to connect well, especially with like Born to Shine members. Because,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Listen, Born to Shine, I'm sorry. I hadn't been there that often. I'm going to come more often because actually our incoming president, official president now, insists that we come. And I think it's good. I'm watching for you.
We want to build community. Just if I could share that quickly. Yeah. For me, it's the power of opportunity. Because so many people, like even for us, like this is the first time when we walked into the studio, like this is the first time I've ever been in a studio like this.
Yeah.
So giving myself the opportunity. But then when we started to invite other people, not the regular podcasts like Wang Mingxuan or Jenny Zhang or even your wife, but a lot of the younger people came in and they were like just so, whoa, it's the first time I've ever been in a studio with a microphone and a popper. And just like being able to give people those opportunities to just see, that power of opportunity you give to people, just to have a little bit of a different experience, for me was a very, very big lesson in life that we need to give people opportunity.
Huge. And I remember we did an episode with Linda and Douglas.
Yes.
And Linda wrote both of us cards.
Yes, she did. And she even gave us some money for the room.
That was... I was
unsolicited. We didn't ask anybody, but
no.
She donated some money to us,
And she was so gracious about it.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I got that feeling of, for the people we interview who aren't regular podcasters or do this sort of thing, it's just it's a huge experience.
Yeah.
And here you and I are like, well, we're just kind of learning how to do it. But for them, it's like, oh man, I'm on.
And they think we're professional.
Oh, wow.
So my next question to you, Joe, is what is one guest you wish we could have had on, but we didn't?
Ooh, long list. Okay.
Long list. Okay, well, give me one or two.
Listen, I've mentioned this on several episodes, but the timing of it, obviously we would have never been able to get Queenie on here.
Yeah, sure.
And that's the person who's I've mentioned on several episodes. Would have been top. Absolutely. Your wife, my Taiwanese mom.
Sure.
And there's always a little part of me that's like, ugh. And so when you bring up stories about her, I'm always very happy because it brings in that little bit. Try not to cry on this episode, but I've got the feelings. There are a lot of other people I would have really enjoyed having on here. Past presidents like Jalwin. Jalwin's always such a smart thinker.
I know.
And I feel like she could have a lot of interesting things to say. That's somebody I would have wanted to bring back in. And I'm trying to think of like a couple of others that I would like really, really want to get. We got the twins. We got that pair. Oh, yes. Jack Xie. Because we got Kevin. We got
Jenny. You're going to get Jack.
We miss Jack.
Yeah, we'll get Jack. Yeah. And that's the good thing, maybe we could lead up a little bit that hopefully after the story we're going to start.
We're going to start second round.
Yeah, and second round is going to be a less focused on the story, and you can maybe just give it a quick pump.
Yeah, so right now this is our basic idea is just in Toastmasters, we have this thing, second round, you finish the meeting, get together, you just chat. And we want to be able to create more space for conversations with our members and bring you into that conversation as well through these videos and the comment section or the Spotify Q&A. I put out a question. Say hi to me.
Yeah, and so we're going to be able to include these members who didn't have a chance in this one to come in on the second round.
Yes.
And I'm very, very looking forward to that. I have another question for you. No.
This is amazing. You have so many questions with no card. That's impressive. Wait. Who would you have wanted? Can I turn around? Can I turn a question around? I know it's your time, so you can choose.
Honestly, there's somebody who I would love to have on the show, and maybe we can get him on the second round. Look, I love all the people in my clubs. I really do. But there's one guy who always stands out in Toastmasters Taiwan District 67 that I would love to have on the show. I think he'd add so much value to our show, so much value to the people who listen to him. He's a very reflective person. I haven't seen him for the longest time. Hai Shuo Li.
Yes. I was wondering if you're going to say Hai Shuo.
Hai Shuo Li. If you don't know Hai Shuo, he's somebody who's had a big impact on Joe and myself. He's beaten us in every competition quite well.
Anytime we've competed with him, he has just trounced us.
But many people don't know that he's actually a charter member of Born to Shine.
Yep. And he was on a bus ad.
Yes, he was on a bus ad. But I would just love to have a chat with Hai Shuo. And, maybe... on the second round, there'll be an opportunity for us to either go down to Taichung and interview him there, or if he's in Taipei sometime, maybe we could get him on our show.
Yeah.
But, he's just somebody who I've always felt is very genuine. And once again, when Queenie was sick, a lot of people did say a lot of things, but for him, he just sent me messages like anything you need, anytime you need, whatever you need. And then I think the other person I would like to have on the show is Douglas Huang.
Douglas Huang was also kind of floating around the back of my mind.
Because Douglas Huang is somebody that, he contributed so much to the foundations of TGIF and Born and Sharpe.
Yeah.
And honestly, TGIF would not exist without Douglas Huang. And by extension, there would be no Born and Sharpe. Douglas Huang was somebody who was organizer, he was motivator, he was enthusiastic. And when he stepped out the clubs, we lost a lot. And I would also like to have him on our show.
Ooh, this
Douglas
is
Huang and Hai Shuo Li. And maybe sometime on the second round, we can have them here.
I would love that. Yeah, that's good. And that's true. Like Douglas Huang played a very big role. And when I had first joined, he was president.
Yes, he was.
Yeah, so, oh man, nostalgia.
Yeah, so those two, Douglas Huang and Hai Shuo Li, if I can have them on, I definitely would. So, can I go back to
you're good.
Okay,
You're good.
all right. So, one thing we always want to do in Toastmasters is have an impact on people. We always join Toastmasters because we want to impact people with our stories, with our leadership, with our lives. How do you hope that this podcast, the story, and then later the second round can have an impact on the broader District 67 community, the broader Taiwanese community, and the broader Toastmasters international community? What impact do you hope we can have?
For me, when we share each episode through Facebook, through Line, I try to sneak into the District 67 Facebook page.
And they've been very good about it.
Thank you, Simone.
Thank you, Simone. Thank you, Ben.
And when I write the copy for those posts, I really try to step back and think about what can District 67 take from these episodes. And for TGIF and Born to Shine, we're kind of looked at as particularly strong clubs. And my biggest hope is that by seeing the podcast and, listening to people's stories, people can get a better sense of like what's actually going on. Because I think when you show up at a TGIF meeting or a Born to Shine meeting, you're seeing like the top of the iceberg, right? But not what's going on below. And not really getting a full sense of the club culture. So on the one hand, I hope that people can see the episodes and feel inspired to bring a little extra passion, a little more love into their clubs. And then also to get an understanding of like, why are we a Christian club? And that it's not just like, we wanted our name to be extra long.
Yeah, wow, it is extra long.
Yeah, the Christian adds several
especially
characters.
Of Born to Shine.
Yes, Born to Shine, because you're not BTS.
Yeah,
that's a
Born
Korean
to Shine.
boy band.
Yeah.
And so my biggest hope is, one, that District 67 clubs will look at it and say, okay, here's some lessons that maybe our club can learn. Whether it's learning how to charter a club, whether it's how to lead a team, whether it's how to compete a little bit better, all of those things, because we've covered a lot of topics. 2, I hope that on an international level and I haven't really gotten much this way, but I have shared it with Japanese Toastmasters. I've shared it with some Korean Toastmasters. I realize I should try to find some American Toastmasters, share it with them. But what I really want to see is like a conversation that gets started like, oh, that's how Taiwan Toastmasters is. Here's how it is in the US. Here's how it is in Korea. And compare, contrast, and find some good things, that they can maybe take away that we do here in Taiwan, or they can tell us in the comment section about what they do over there. And so maybe generating more of that conversation. The third thing is I hope that this series is something that members who join our club 5, 6, 10 years from now, they'll look back and they'll get to hear stories that they didn't know, like Born to Shine was almost TGIF 2. And hear voices that, God willing, they are still members in the club. God willing, they are still alive and kicking. But that 10, 20 years from now, were those voices not to be there, they are preserved, they are kept, and that you can look back at them.
That's the big reason why I started the YouTube channel. I initially just started because I was bored and
No way. What?
But then I was okay. What's a way to improve? But then when people started to leave the club, to go abroad or whatever, I realized we're capturing voices and stories that we'd never have to lose those voices. And then when Queenie passed, we always have a voice, and I can always go back and listen to her stories, and people can see the stories of the people that have been there before, and they can know where we come from.
Yes.
There's a very famous Toastmasters club in Taipei called Legacy. And I don't know if they've got videos or whatever, but one of their great members, Harrison Lee, passed away shortly before Queenie did.
Yeah.
But how much of the memory of Harrison do they have? I don't know. I found I think 25 of Queenie's speeches are on our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And so many of our members who have left, we don't have their videos.
I know.
And it's so frustrating that we don't have, and so that's why I started a channel for that.
Yeah. Actually, now that we're talking about it, my brain just came up with one more person I'd want to be able to get on our show, Liz.
Oh, Liz West. Yeah.
I remember when she was visiting, I was in Thailand.
I know. She wouldn't have been able to do it. She didn't have the time. Yeah.
But that's another person who was in our club, really impactful.
Yeah, she was just so amazing, Liz
and
West,
it would be great to just record her voice and make sure she's a part of this.
Well, we do have some of her videos on our YouTube channel. Another question I have for you, Joe, is, we don't really do this podcast for ourselves. We don't really look at us.
Wait, you're not the next Joe Rogan?
No, hope not. But I do want to ask you a question. You're an incredibly humble person. You're an incredibly supportive and loving person. And so you never really speak highly of yourself sometimes. But I do want to know, of this podcast, what are you most proud of?
What am I most proud of?
Another superlative.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Or what are you proud of this podcast? Like the one thing that you're proud of, or one of many things that you're proud of this podcast?
For me, one of the things I'm most proud of, I want to focus on what I'm happiest about. With
okay, well, what are you happiest about? Yeah, let's do that. Yeah.
One of the things I'm happiest about is a message I got from you.
Which message was that?
I don't want to get too sentimental here, but you were like, you know what? Like starting this project with you, like it's been the first thing this year in a long while that I felt really happy about focusing on.
Yeah, since Queenie passed, yeah.
And I got that message and I cried. Because I just thought, I'm not going to cry here because I'm done crying. But what I'm trying to say is that I was really happy that you and I got a project that we could work on together. Like, we get together, we sit at coffee shops, breakfast shops, and we just banter. But once we started this project, there was so much excitement in our conversation.
And there still is.
Yeah. And who are we going to talk to? What are we going to ask them? How do we want to do it? What are we going to set up? And I felt like the project gave us so much to do together. And I felt like I got to spend more time with you and do something really meaningful. So that's a big one. But if I want to be just for the podcast, I really loved our hosting style. I felt like we got really good about working off of each other. The biggest shift was when you moved from over there to that side of the room to this side of the room. The whole, the vibe of our co-hosting.
It did change,
Totally different. And I felt like it leveled up a lot. And I'm super proud of that. I know it's it's just a seating difference. But
it made a huge difference. It made a huge
big difference.
Yeah.
That's I'm super proud of.
Yeah. And our one last question that we always ask all our
No, what?
How are you going to grow in the next year, Joe?
One of the biggest things is my journey as a master's student for the second time is coming to an end, right? I've been working on my thesis and I'm about to experience a really big life shift.
You are.
And going into kind of the Taiwanese corporate world, it's totally uncharted territory because basically my first major career job, not working on the farm. I know my mom's listening. And she's
I know.
You led ponies since you were 4, Joey. My mom
And
calls
got
me
kidnapped
Joey.
by turkeys.
Yes. And I'm not even going to add context. But there's my first major career kind of job was studio classroom. But that was such a totally different environment. It's led by Doris Brome.
Sure.
She's the kind of lady who would come out of her office and she said, Joe, have you taken scuba diving lessons? And I said, no. And she said, okay, Monday through Wednesday next week, don't come to the office. Go to this pool. You're going to learn how to scuba dive.
How awesome is that?
That's awesome. I don't think that happens in normal Taiwanese.
No, it doesn't.
So I think my biggest area of growing is trusting that the Lord will guide me to where I need to be, making the money I need to make, and doing the things that I need to be doing, and trusting in that and not having fear about it.
Personally, the one thing that I'm so also enjoying doing with you and also by extension your wife is you introduced me to the writings of Andrew Murray.
Yes.
And I'm absolutely enjoying reading his devotionals, Abide in Christ.
Abide in Christ.
It's beautiful.
Not abide with.
Yeah. So unlike you, I don't have as many questions as you. These are all table topics, but I'm giving myself a little bit of time because you're one of my closest friends. And I do want to say thank you for including me in this project. And I appreciate our friendship so much. You're one of my best friends, and just to do this with you has been an absolute pleasure. And I do have a little something I want to give you to say thank you.
Oh my gosh.
This is something that's from me to you. It is something that I bought 30 years ago.
What?
Yes. It is the centenary edition of The Lord of the Rings.
Oh my gosh! Whoa!
And
Whoa!
I have no need for this anymore.
You know me too.
So I'm
oh
giving
my
you
gosh.
the centenary edition of Lord of the Rings.
Whoa! Whoa! Okay.
That's a gift to you.
Whoa!
Be careful with it. The binding's a little bit loose.
This is amazing. Oh my gosh.
I haven't read that book in about 10 years, but I have read it 10 times.
And it's the illustrated by Alan Lee edition. Dang.
And so I want to say thank you for being my co-host on this podcast. And that's just a small gift of appreciation. Say thank you for all your efforts in my life and in Queenie's life. And I've kept that book for 30 years from South Africa. And actually, I bought it in 1991.
I was like, I'm not going to tell you how old I was in 1991.
I bought it in 1991 with all the money I had left in the world. All I had was like enough money for the book and bus fare home. I was a battling student at that time. And I bought it in a bookstore on West Street in Durban, South Africa.
Wow.
They've changed the name of it now. In a bookshop called Reigel's, opposite 320 West Street. I can't remember the exact address. Yeah. But anyway, that's just to say thank you, a little token of appreciation to say thank you.
God
please
bless.
take care of it. The binding's a little bit weak. It is 35 years old, that book, or 33 years old, or whatever. Take care of it.
I am honestly super touched. And you know me so well because I'm always like, oh, Lord of the Rings reference.
Yeah. So anyway, I love Lord of the Rings. I've read the book 10 times. I'm not going to read that in. And I think I can give it to you and entrust it to your care.
God bless. Paul, this has been a fantastic experience. It's something that
Thank you,
I
Joe.
think I'm always going to remember.
Me too.
And when we talk about remember, that always leads us into our closing line, of course.
Yeah, well, this is the wrap, Joe.
It is the wrap. And so
And remember,
we want to remind everyone that's watching, that's listening, that we are built on love.
I'm born to shine.
See you in the second round.
Done.
Done. Oh my gosh.